Oh wow, pinging? Are we? Oh gosh, I thought we are offline. That would be quite unfortunate. So let me grab some energy drink before it's getting dark. And I can't drink it anymore. Actually, I don't have any idea how much effect energy drinks have on my sleeping. I never made bad experiences yet. But yeah, let's see. Okay, welcome back to this advertisement episode for Lasergurkenland. Currently reachable on the lgl.zillihun.com. And I'm out of my breath here. That's not what you say in English, right? That's a German saying. Can you say that in English? To be out of breath? Like you're breathing so hard because you're exhausted and there's not any left? I don't know, whatever. What a embarrassing start, as always. So today we have a special episode. Why is it special? Because today we are not going to watch yet another Media CCC talk or yet another DEFCON talk or whatever. We are not even watching on YouTube. That's crazy, isn't it? Because Chris Ware, I can't even pronounce his name, that's so embarrassing. This guy named Chris, we watched in the last stream, we watched his ramble on peertube. And so I decided to check out his peertube channel and binge watch it a bit. And I have prepared 4 videos, so we are going to watch 4 videos in one stream, which is like, that's crazy. Usually it's 1 video per video, which makes some sense. Yeah, I'm not very looking forward to it because it will be kind of exhausting to switch videos while recording and streaming and so on. But on the other hand, yeah, I like that guy and I like his content, so I'm kind of forced to watch it. And since he has no long videos, that's what you get. Okay, so we are going to watch some videos from. Oh, I have no cobblestone. Ha, yikes. From Chris Ware. Can he please say how his name is pronounced in the introduction, in the intro? Chris Ware, that's how you write him. And he's on ShareTube. So share.tube is his preferred peertube instance. And this is where we are going to watch some videos. All the links to the videos, as always, are in the description. And I hope I don't regret watching 4 videos of him. Oh wait, are those even license? I'm not even allowed. Wait, I didn't check the license. I'm such an idiot. And my scroll is not working. Wait, can I? I cannot scroll with my. I cannot. My mouse is not working. That's maybe I should real quick. Yeah, that would be unlucky if he doesn't want us to do that. License attribution. I have no idea.
Folks. So sometimes
I have no idea. License attribution is. Am I allowed to watch this video? I don't know. I actually don't know. But you know what? His YouTube video was under Creative Commons, so I assume that guy's. Oh, he has 25,000 subscribers. I didn't know he was that big. Crazy. But since this is Creative Commons, I hope attribution says I can watch it. Please don't sue me. Oh man, I hope I'm not doing something against his interest. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so well prepared I am. Yeah, whatever. I think it's fine. I hope it's fine. Since the video has 0 views, that is, I guess it's acceptable to watch other people's content. Yeah, so please, I do not know if I'm allowed to steal his content. Please check out the original videos and give them a click on peertube. Yeah, other than that, if you're interested in this Minecraft server, it's an anarchy server without rules and so on, classical stuff. It will stay up for multiple years at least. If you're interested in building here, blah de blah. I don't feel like doing a Minecraft introduction right now. This whole point of this video is to sell you this Minecraft server, but yeah, just join and just stay here forever. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, then I would say please check out the original videos so he gets some clicks on peertube. That would be great. Even though he's a much bigger YouTuber than me, I really want to advertise his channel. His peertube, not his YouTube. Well, you can also click his okay. This will be a lot of multitasking now, but whatever. I should finally start the video. So I feel this pressure right now that I am doing this introduction, and I coming to the stupid stash. Oh, where are the coordinates again? Yeah, okay, so I guess it's fine. So what video should we start with? Let's go with session, an open source end-to-end encrypted. Wait, maybe we should go with the order I put it in the description. That would make sense. Whoops. I cannot scroll. Well, I can. Yes, I can. Much hex. Okay, so we're starting with session. Can those not annoy me? Session. Yes, session. Okay. So the title is Session, an open source end-to-end encrypted messenger. Let's get started.
Hi folks, so some time ago I made a video talking about the Signal instant messaging app, and it's actually, interestingly enough, one of the more popular videos on this channel, but also received a number of criticisms from you guys, and I think they were quite substantial as well. Largely that it was a centralized service, that it needed your phone number to register on, that it used Google services and was not, for example, available in the F-Droid store. I think there were some other things around it as well, but it also had a number of positives, largely that it was actually quite easy to use and actually made available genuine private communication to people who were of a less technical disposition, which I think is a real benefit to what Signal brought to the table. Now, Signal was or is rather open source, including of course its encryption algorithm, which has been adopted by many other applications as well, most notably WhatsApp. And this is a really interesting way of how open source code can make it into the mainstream in ways that we don't necessarily anticipate, but also ways in which benefit people, en masse, which is really good. We can't expect everyone in the world to care about the same things that we care about, or to have the same sort of understanding about the context in which our technology works.
Do you remember the coordinates? It was 600 and minus 300? Was that correct? I think so.
Just one of those, things of the world in the same way that we can't be knowledgeable and excited about all the technical details of other facets of human civilization, and this is just how we function as a society in the broad strokes of it. However, another application has been released quite some time ago now, perhaps not as long ago as Signal, but it is called Session, and Session aims to address some of the criticisms or some of the shortcomings of the Signal instant messaging app. So, Session, which is available from getsession.org, I'll just try and give you a quick glance of the website. It's available Android, iPhone, APK, desktop. So, Session is not actually available in the F-Droid store, but you can get the APK of it, which is, it's all good there. And also you've got Android, iPhone, so it's available on multi-platform, which is of course quite important. So Session is an end-to-end encrypted messenger that removes sensitive metadata collection and is designed for people who want privacy and freedom from any forms of surveillance. So that's pretty cool. It's got some key points here. No identification is required to create a Session account. Session doesn't collect data, so there's nothing to leak. Send messages through our Onion routing network and leave no trace.
Ooh, it sounds slow.
Session's code has nothing to hide. Anyone can view, audit, and contribute. One account, many devices. Session works wherever you go, and with no central point of failure, it's harder to shut Session down. You've got group chats, voice messages, attachments, and there's quite a lot of information available on the website there. Just a quick proviso for those using Linux is that it distributes the application as an app image, which is really cool, I think. It's a really good way for third-party developers to actually package the apps the way that they see fit and then distribute them into the wider community as well. And also with app images, of course, you actually get to choose the version that you get that you're working with, which, depending on the application, is of varying importance. So anyway, you've got an app image. That's good. At least it's cross-platform, rather than like some applications. It's happening less and less nowadays. But some applications will just give you like a .deb file, which is not, in my opinion, supporting Linux. It's doing the bare minimum, it's doing lip service. But an app image actually, to me, just sort of demonstrates that they've actually sort of have some insight into the Linux community. And I suspect, to be honest, it's that there are going to be Linux developers quite thoroughly involved with this, as is with most applications like this. It's also available on GitHub, and what I will say is that it is quite often the case that the app image available on the GitHub releases page is more up to date than the one that you'll just download off the website. So that's probably worth bearing in mind there. Now, I'm not going to give you a complete blow-by-blow as to the application itself. This is just going to be a quick video just to let you know that it kind of exists and that it works, and just to share a few thoughts on it there. So as you can see, I've got the Session application up right now, and it's quite a good app. It's quite a good app as well. So what you're seeing right now is a 120% sized version of it, because in the video where I talked about Delta Chat, a lot of people fed back that a lot of the text on the screen was actually rather quite small. So I've actually just boosted up the size of this Session application just so that you guys can see it. And I've got one sort of sample message here. So I've got my phone here, and what I'm going to do is just open it up, open up the Session app, and go into that conversation, and just sort of give you a demonstration. I mean, I think you guys know how instant messaging apps work, but what I've done there, as you can see, is just popped up.
It's really hard to look at the video while duping, but yeah, I try.
A message, and then I can go hello to you too, and there we go. Not entirely certain why the typing thing is there. Have I got something up on the? There we go. And it's as simple as that. Now, in terms of in terms of like some of the nuances. So, for example, contact information, right? So I'll go to yes, here we go. So this is my profile. You can actually put in a profile page, a profile like avatar. That's the word I was looking for. And you can also change your sort of your name, your handle, or whatever it. And also you have a QR code. So what you can do is you can get the old phone there. You could just, and then you can then you've got that effectively session ID right at the bottom there. 059. So yeah, and that's as simple as that. So you just ping that with your phone, and then you're connected. Now, also it's just occurred to me I've got the wrong 2 there. Yeah. I'm just acknowledging the grammar error there in front of the internet, because I know someone would point it out otherwise. But yeah, and it's as simple as that. There are open groups and closed groups that you can use as well, and it's as simple as that. The mobile app, largely from an aesthetic point of view, is the sort of similar to this / the same as every other instant messaging app you can get. And that's really it. It's quite straightforward, quite simple. Runs well enough on the phone here, and I believe it says, and I can go back onto the website here. I don't think you guys will be able to see this, but I'm just going to see if it does say. Firstly, session does not rely on central servers, instead using a decentralized network of thousands of economically incentivized nodes to perform all core messaging functionality. For those services where decentralization is impractical, like storage of attachments and hosting of large group chat channels, session allows users to self-host infrastructure or rely on built-in encryption and metadata protection to mitigate trust concerns. Secondly, session ensures that IP addresses cannot be linked to messages sent or received by users. This is accomplished by using an onion routing protocol called onion requests. Thirdly, session does not ask or require users to provide a phone number or email address when registering a new account. Instead, it uses pseudonyms, public-private key pairs. So there we go. So it's sort of blockchain technology in that regard, isn't it? So in my playing around with it over the past couple of weeks now, having seen it come, seeing several versions get released, I've got to say that largely this is definitely going to be one that I'm interested in watching, but I'm not entirely sure that it's there for mass use yet. I certainly would invite any of you guys to download it from getsession.org and have a play around with it yourself. It's free, it's open source, it's easy enough to get up and running. So I'm going to let you guys really make your own minds up on that. But to be honest, I have had a couple of rough around the edges experiences, but I don't necessarily want to put that too front and center in this video, because
Fuck, I'm such an idiot.
Types of programs, I push them to the breaking point.
I hate myself.
Poke around and see what I can do here, what happens if I do that. So it's quite likely that a more expected use case might.
How can one be so stupid? I've built far too many of those shitting fuck machines to mess it up like that. Rage.
Not necessarily come up against some of the rough around the edges issues. The paper cut issues, I think they sometimes call them, that you might necessarily that I've come across. So, and whereas I'm not necessarily technically adept to really understand the complete nuances of the under the hood technology, I do question whether or not this blockchain type of approach is really necessarily the best approach. I can certainly understand it from a simplicity case. It offers some degree of easy to work with structure, whereas when you've got, for example, like Matrix, for example, where you've got lots of different servers and lots of different clients and all that interconnection, that it can seem a little bit complex from an organizational point of view, understanding where all the servers are, and then getting your people on the ground to understand the differences between the servers and all that kind of stuff. And it's not necessarily as easy as, here's a handle, go and contact someone. And there are, of course, other instant messenger platforms, similar to Tox, for example, that uses direct...
Oh, boys. Tox. I've tried Tox. No hate and all, but boy, Tox. What a tool. I cannot recommend it. Jesus. Ah! Yeah, the delay is real. Oh, come on. Okay, finally. Yeah, so I tested Tox. I thought it's a good thing, but no. It for sure has some good ideas, but like from a user's experience, it's not too good. I don't know. The UI, do I still have it installed? Maybe I can quickly. Yeah. Well, okay. I do not have the I do not have my password right now, but this is. I mean, isn't that like? I mean, it does not look super bad, but that's not modern design, and that's throughout the whole application. It does not look very good, and it also does not function too well. I could not get it running. I did not try too hard, but on one of my devices it was like a meh experience. I don't know. I don't want to rant too much about QTalks because I haven't worked with it a lot, but I wouldn't recommend it yet. Maybe it gets better. I don't know why people keep talking about it. Like compared to Session, what Chris is talking about right now, QTalks looks like shit. Okay, I didn't want to. Yeah, let's not be too rude with QTalks, but just play the video, whatever. I'm just embarrassing myself here.
Device-to-device communication with nothing in between other than the handshaking initially, and that's.
Yeah, I mean the concept is cool. No questions asked, but well, the details.
Quite good. However,
it's the same as with Matrix or Matrix. That's probably how you pronounce it. Matrix has like the Riot client has a better look. Well, it looks kind of good, industry standard to me. But yeah, I don't know. The usability was not too good. I had a lot of delay and so on when testing it. So maybe Matrix in the future will be cool. Well, talks. So why do I? Well, the delay is too high. Yeah. Well, Talks is like a protocol, like for messaging and stuff. Yeah, it's not very popular, and QTalks is the Qt implementation of this thing, and well, it's there's a reason why nobody knows it. But it has a cool concept idea, so that's nice. So you directly communicate with each other. My English is on point as always, and I mean you do not need a central server, so all communication is kind of direct, which is cool, and it's encrypted and all, and it's secure, whatnot. But yeah, it doesn't work very nice from a user's experience, which is also kind of important for a messenger, in my opinion. Okay, let's go get started.
I'm not entirely sure where they are with that at the moment. It's been a while since I checked in, and also I have heard that could be quite draining on a mobile battery, which is of course what most people are communicating with these days anyway. It can't all be on the desktop. But the benefit of Tox I really liked is that people could use their own client. You know, it had a lot of freedom in that regard. Whereas with Session, it's a lot more like your Telegrams and your WhatsApps, in that it gives you an application and you just run with the application. Much better for your non-technical user, or much better, much easier for your non-technical user, much more straightforward for your non-technical user. And in terms of mass adoption for an instant messaging platform that we really like, this might, you know, it is a substantial point. But that being said, of course, you can then compare it to something like Delta Chat, and Delta Chat, since the video that I made, I've only come to like it more and more, because Delta Chat doesn't necessarily have the same problem of getting people on board with your instant messenger platform of choice, but rather just seeks to integrate within existing frameworks, whilst at the same time not being centralized and also offering reasonable encryption services. There is still a metadata issue there, but when it comes to things like privacy, there is no one-size-fits-all use case. You have to use, privacy for what? Like in some circumstances, metadata can't be leaked, in some it can, or sometimes you just want to practice. You just want to practice good encryption habits and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's when it comes to privacy and instant messengers and stuff like that, it's a pretty complex field because everyone has different requirements, needs, and expectations. And managing them all is rather difficult, but I do quite like Delta Chat in that regard. So one final thing that I want to discuss when it comes to Session is how it approaches sort of user ID, handles, usernames, that kind of thing. Because one issue which I have found to be a little bit more complicated than it would be ideal to be is that it, of course, uses that long string as an ID. Now, of course, you can use QR codes to expedite the transfer of user IDs. You can also, of course, send user IDs through less secure channels, I guess, or in person or anything like that. It definitely is kind of interesting in that regard. It also kind of feels, and this is just a feeling that I kind of get, that the idea of having your profile on Session is not necessarily as permanent as it might be with other applications, that it's not so rigidly attached to your identity in the same way that WhatsApp and Signal use your phone number, that it's a little bit more ephemeral like that in terms of it's like you'll use it for a particular purpose or for a particular use case, and then once it's done, it may have sort of run its course, and it's not necessarily as a permanent home for your to communicate with you on the internet. And whereas there is nothing necessarily explicit to say that's the case, it does kind of feel that without things like backing up stuff on centralized servers, and there's not really sort of too much in the way of exporting information, if I remember correctly. You can't, for example, I don't think you can export address books and things like that. And I don't know if that's necessarily something that's going to be added in the future, or whether or not this is just something where it's like, yeah, you install the app, you do what you need to do, and then you can scrub it and get a new identity, or just,
Sounds kind of useless for a daily messenger, to be honest.
It's not designed to be a sort of focal point for your point of contact on the internet. Perhaps, I'm not entirely certain about what the intention is here with that, but when it comes to would I put my Session ID, for example, on a business card, or something a bit more permanent than that? I don't think I necessarily would, because I think one of the ideas about Session is that it preserves that degree of flexibility and ephemerality in that it's like, if an ID or gets compromised, for example, then you might just scrub it and start a new one, and not to get too attached to any one Session ID that you get. And I think that might sort of kind of be implied in the name Session. So whereas there is no sort of like time limit or sort of explicit scope of a use case or conversation, it does sort of seem to me that the idea of communicating on Session is it's not like the instant messaging platform to end all instant messaging platforms, but rather just a platform explicitly for private communication rather than general communication. Whereas it can be used for general communication, of course, with those, with the sort of the issue of having this sort of air of ephemerality about it, that it might not necessarily suit that case, whereas something that is attached to a phone number or an email address might be more suitable, like, for example, Delta Chat and email, or Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp, etc. So, anyway, those are just a few thoughts I had on Session. All in all, I'm going to keep it on my phone. I've had it on my phone now for a good couple of months, actually, and I quite like it. The big shortcoming, of course, is that there aren't that many people on it, and people aren't exactly putting their handles, their IDs or whatever it is, about. So all in all, yeah, it's a piece of software that I'm really quite interested in, and certainly will be following. I've had it on the devices for a couple of months now. And I mean, the big shortcoming is that I don't know pretty much anybody who uses Session. So
Wow, if he has no contacts, like how can he even judge how good this application is if he can't actually use it? Nice.
So yeah, there's sort of that overarching issue. Whereas if I want to get in touch with someone on Delta Chat, not a problem whatsoever. And even with things like Telegram, there's a substantial number of people who use Telegram. Of course, Telegram being such a centralized service, whilst the clients are open source, the centralized servers not being, it kind of makes it rather sort of proprietary in spirit anyway. But that aside, yeah, let's keep an eye on session, give it a go, and let me know how you guys get on with it. If, in case you guys were wondering, yes, I did use burner accounts just for the purposes of this video, and it seemed quite easy just to sort of wipe a session device and then put on a new account. So that's another reason why I kind of get this idea that your like a session account isn't necessarily something that you carry with you for the rest of your life. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And yeah, until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and it's been awesome.
Well, he didn't solve that messenger to me, but it looks kind of cool. Not gonna lie. Okay, so next up is well, I have to watch here. Am I going to explode? I feel like I'm going to explode. Whatever. So the next video is open source front ends. Let's go. Yeah, that does not look good. I knew it. Where's my Okay, will that work? Does it? Nah. Yes? No? No. Fuck. Okay, so let's start a new video. It's about open source front ends for YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Yeah, same dude. Link is the second link in the description. Let's get started.
Hi folks, so today I would like to introduce to you a handful of online projects which I think are particularly wonderful. They all aim to do the same job but for different places on the internet. They're all open source and they're all sort of community built, and I'd like to, and many of you guys are actually going to be quite familiar with them, I'm sure, today, but they're definitely worth a mention because I think they provide like a very useful tool, provide themselves as a very useful tool on the internet, as well as being an example of a sort of a Linux and open source approach to problems on the internet. Now I'll get into specifics once I introduce to you the first of these services. This is HexDSL's YouTube channel on a platform called Invidious. So I've just chosen HexDSL because he's just a good friend of mine, and he's just, I'm just using it as a bit of an example. But basically what Invidious does is provides a front end to YouTube from which you can actually just watch videos, browse channels, subscribe to channels, and you can subscribe to them through the Invidious website itself, or you can subscribe using RSS feeds, an RSS feed as well, which I think is particularly neat. So this is it. This is just Hex's YouTube channel, but it's done in Invidious as a light mode and a dark mode. So there's that, which I think is of course particularly important. It's a lot more lightweight than the YouTube website as well. It doesn't have all that tracking, it doesn't have all that advertising, and it just provides a bit more user freedom when it comes to browsing YouTube, which I think is really good, and I think it is a bit of a free and open source approach to the problems that YouTube has given us, in terms of that it's not exactly the most ethical service going. It's not exactly the most ethical piece of software when it tracks you and records so much data on you. And also, of course, that it is a very heavy website. Like if you're watching YouTube videos on an old computer, it's going to struggle. And this is, again, it provides a bit of an alternative. Now, I will say that there is an ethical argument to be said that when you're watching YouTube videos through the Invidious player, that you're not supporting the content creators by watching their advertising or upping their watch time, which helps their videos get discovered on the YouTube algorithms and all that. You're not feeding into the YouTube ecosystem. Some of you will consider that a good thing, but also because you're kind of doing it without the content creator's consent, it can be seen as a little bit of a an ethical grey area there, but that's going to be one I'm going to leave up to you. For what it's worth, folks, if you do want to watch my videos through Invidious, which you can do, I'm perfectly fine with it. I freely give my consent there, but do it in the knowledge that watch time on YouTube does contribute to videos getting watched and discovered. All things considered, I do my YouTube videos for fun nowadays. I don't really care about it.
What a potato server. We have like 4 people online and I can barely load chunks. What is going on?
But if you count, it's just nice to, I post to peertube, I post to all the other places, so it's all pretty good from that point of view. Just for me though. But yeah, I think Invidious is like a really good service because it gives you a much better front end to YouTube, which gives the end user a lot more control. And I think this sort of fits in with the free and open source ethos a little bit better, because it sort of takes a problem and then sort of bridges the gap to make it more accessible to more people in that community. It's not like in other sort of facets of technology where the community will just stamp their feet and start yelling until their platform is supported or until something comes to them. We, in sort of the Linux space and the open source space, actually will go out and we will bridge the gap. We will make things compatible with our way of doing things. Another good example is Wine for playing video games on Linux. It's like, yeah, we're not going to wait for all of these video game companies to actually sort of start porting games to Linux. We're a small market share. It's unlikely to happen, especially in in your more profit-driven models of making computer games. So we're going to bridge the gap. We're going to build some open source software, which then makes games that are not made for our platform available for us, and it gives most users the most freedom because it gives the developers the freedom to develop on the platform that they choose to develop for, and it gives us end users here on Linux the option of playing on the platform that we want to play with. Everybody wins, as far as I can tell there. And this is a little bit with Invidious because it's like, yes, the end user gets to watch videos in a more sort of in a more favourable environment, and then the content creator doesn't. They can upload to YouTube as they see fit. It might be more suitable for getting views for their videos. It might be that it's not exactly practical for us to sort of ask all of these content creators on YouTube to actually start posting to places like peertube and other video sharing platforms as well. So this, again, it provides a bit of a bridge. It provides a bit of a middle ground, and I think that's really quite good. So, leaning into that, I'm also going to demonstrate to you Bibliogram, which does a very similar thing, but here on Instagram. So it's a very simple interface here. Now, I am not actually on the main instance, which is bibliogram.art. And the reason for that is that if you go down to the bottom of a Bibliogram page, there are several instances. The fact that this applies for Invidious and Bibliogram as well is that you can put this, because this is free and open source software, you can install it on your own server and then use it as you wish. It's freely available, and that's one of the great things about it. And it's not just, you don't have these one instances. You can choose from several instances, and this is a secondary instance of Bibliogram. And the reason I'm selecting it today is because it enables RSS feeds, so you can subscribe to an Instagram account using your RSS reader. Whereas with bibliogram.art, they've disabled that. So
I have a confession to make. I actually don't know what RSS feed is, but don't tell anyone.
Not entirely certain why. It might be a case of like server load, or it might be that it's just too much of a load on the server, or it could be any number of reasons as well. So like Bibliogram on snowpita.org seems to allow RSS feeds, so that's pretty good there as well.
What did I do?
and you can go down to the bottom and you can look for, what is it, other bibliogram instances, and then it'll come up and it'll give you some, like, let you know all the ins and outs of it, and all of that. So that's pretty good there. Now I will actually say, if you go to contact the developer, and I just want to let you guys, give you a bit of a heads up on, particularly with bibliogram, because the developer says on their platform here, because the developer does not have a reliable source of income, so donations are very much appreciated. If any of you guys do happen to have some spare crypto lying around, this is a nice project to donate to. I don't usually necessarily say things like that, but given that this is an up-and-coming service from a developer who seems to have gone above and beyond the call of duty to actually get their software and solve a problem out there, I just thought I might sort of flag it up. But yeah, anyhow, bibliogram, this is great because
how did
again, my good friend,
why is this thing
as the example of the day? You can just type in his name, and then you've got all his history, right? Now, if I were to open up Hex's channel on Instagram, or Hex's blog on Instagram, whatever, not log in, because I do not have an Instagram account, scroll all the way down, oh no, I can't view any more photos until I sign up for an Instagram account, which I think is really sleazy, if I'm completely honest. So, but not here. You can check out everything that our good friend Hex has to offer.
What the heck? What? Oh, like the whole machine is... Oh, wait. Something is super off here.
And as an aficionado of mildly amusing facial expressions,
whatever.
I think this is a really good solution to the particular problem. And when it comes to Instagram, it doesn't have the same sort of algorithmic pressures that YouTube has. So just from my point of view, I consider this to be a much more ethically ethically viable, ethically good, acceptable way of approaching the problem. And if I'm completely honest, I don't care about Instagram as a company, but end users, people that want to publish their photographs, they should be allowed to do it on the platform of their choice. My opinions and my ethics in this regard should not necessarily, they shouldn't be imposed on people who just want to post up photos on a photo blog. So this, again, it makes the best of both worlds. It gives the end user the opportunity to post up photographs on platforms that they see fit, and it allows me to view those photographs and view that content in a way that is suitable and ethically respecting to me and my values, which I think is really good. Again, this is a perfect opportunity, or a perfect example rather, of how free and open source software just bridges that gap and provides more users with more freedoms and more choices, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. Okay, and on to the final of these services, again, HexDSL. This is knitter.net. This does what the other two did, but for Twitter. So if you do not have a Twitter account, but there are, for example, there's a website that you follow that perhaps doesn't have an RSS feed, but you want to follow updates, well, that's okay. But if that website perhaps doesn't have an RSS feed, but updates on Twitter, well, then you can subscribe to their Twitter RSS feed. You can see a little RSS feed up there in the top right-hand corner, and that and that just comes through to your RSS reader as well. Or you can just use it to just scan through Twitter feeds in a much nicer interface, quite frankly. And all of these things, you can then press this little button at any time, which the little bird icon in the top right-hand corner there, and that will just open it up in Twitter. So even if you do use Twitter or have a Twitter account, you can still use Knitter as you so wish, because
I didn't do the sponge action.
Same thing with Invidious, actually. If you were to open up a video in Invidious here, there is so you've got Hex's big video up there, and then you can just do watch on YouTube. There's a little link right there on the left-hand side, just beneath the title. So, but yeah, knitter.net does the same thing as the rest of them. If you want a open source, lightweight, dark themed front end to Twitter and Twitter accounts, and the ability to follow Twitter accounts through an RSS reader, then this is your option. This is wonderful. So yeah, all in all, these three services, Invidious, Bibliogram and knitter.net are all really good ways to sort of engage in your more corporate social media using free and open source bridges. And I think that is great, and allowing your content creators to publish in a way that suits them, and also viewing content in a way that suits you. I think everybody wins here, because the thing is that it isn't always a great thing to still sort of be stamping your feet and evangelizing people do the way
I pressed the button.
you see fit.
Oh my gosh! What the fuck?
There could be very good reasons for uploading to YouTube. It might be the case that they don't know what peertube is. They don't know how to.
Tits.
They don't know what instance to upload to, and what the various policies are for each of the various instances that peertube might offer. For example, when you start getting into these kind of technical solutions, it does require a little bit more application. And if you're just a content creator that just wants to upload cooking videos or something, then it's not really fair to put huge amounts of pressure on these people when they are just they're just sort of following suit with everyone else. We can't expect everyone to go against the grain, and it doesn't win you a lot of friends and allies when you start stamping your feet and demanding people see the world the same way that you do. So I think that this is a perfect example, or these are three perfect examples, with how free and open source software provides more users with more freedoms, even though the overall circumstances, no, they're not ideal. The world will never be ideal. And as such, we in the sort of the techie community can make the best of it, and we can find these interesting and hacky solutions that basically provide everyone with some kind of satisfaction, or at least that's how I view it. There's not really much to be gained with ideological purity and inflexibility, and basically these open source solutions, they allow us to use the server space of various corporations without actually having to feed into their data ecosystem, and I think that's a good thing. So it's I like it. It seems like some really good services that solve some meaningful problems that I find. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and
Tits, what the fuck? Oh yeah, so that's that. No mouse, that sucks. So what's the next video? Silence. Let's go with silence. Did I finish my message? Ooh, leaking UUIDs. Silence. So now we are watching Silence. Controlling a computer without mouse. Okay, here. The video has the title Silence, encrypting your SMS text messages with free and open source software. It's by the same dude. Link is the third link in the description, I guess. Go check out the original and give him a click. Alrighty, let's go.
So not too long ago, I did a video talking about the Session Instant Messaging platform, which seeks to be an open source, privacy-friendly, but also user-friendly platform for people to communicate.
Is it privacy or is it privacy? I always thought it's privacy, not privacy. But so many people keep saying privacy. Is it some like accent and still valid, I guess? I don't know.
Communicate effectively. And there was criticism levelled at it, which is levelled at a lot of these instant messaging platforms, is that there just aren't people on it. It doesn't necessarily matter if you can build the most, the best instant messaging platform, the easiest to use, the most privacy and end user respecting. But if people just aren't using it, if there aren't people to talk to on it, then it seems to become a little bit redundant. Now, I don't necessarily see this as sort of overly devaluing the platform, because I think the exercise is worthwhile in itself to develop and understand methods to actually create software that is end user respecting in terms of privacy and freedom and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it doesn't actually necessarily solve the problem if you've got a really good instant messaging platform that no one uses. It's like having the nicest car in the world but not knowing how to drive. It's just, it's there, but it's not sort of reaching its full potential.
Fuck.
So one of the ways that I always like when the open source community that sort of manages to overcome this is by developing improvements to existing infrastructure,
it didn't break.
Existing
awesome.
Solutions in what you might sort of perceive as rather hacky ways, but ways in which actually affect people and actually get out there. And one example that I used quite some time ago, I would say this is perhaps a less hacky solution, is that while the Signal instant messaging client, which is actually quite well known, but still not massively widely used, is open source, the encryption algorithm has been used by countless other instant messaging platforms. So open source software is still benefiting people en masse, even if it's we don't have the overall platform itself. We still have actually managed to make it more freedom and privacy respecting for the end user, which I think is really good. And it is a victory. It's just not a perfect victory, I would say. And another good example of this is, in fact, Delta Chat. Delta Chat uses email, but it fashions it into an instant messaging style.
British.
And it also provides end-to-end encryption. And while this isn't perfect, there are perhaps some issues with things like metadata. And of course, there are of course many people who do use, for example, Google services, which are perhaps less privacy respecting. It's still a massive improvement over nothing at all. And it also then allows more flexibility for the users involved. Like, everyone has their own privacy needs and requirements, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution. But to bring open source solutions and bring the open source philosophy to existing platforms, I think can be really, really worthwhile. And also, please bear in mind, when I do say open source solutions, I am sort of leaning more into free software solutions than actual open source solutions. I'm just saying open source because it's what sort of rolls off the tongue, I suppose. So anyway, today I am talking about Silence. Now, Silence is an application available in the F-Droid store, in the Google Play Store, and I've got it up here for you now. But here's the F-Droid in the here's the Silence in the.
How do you spell realize?
It's information, and here
I
it is.
hate my English.
What Play Store here. There isn't too much to actually show you, but I do have the website here. It needs privacy. Silence encrypts your text messages over the air and on your phone. So, it gives you a few selling points here. It's easy. Silence works like any other SMS application. There's nothing to sign up for, and no new service your friends need to join. That's quite important. Silence recommends using encrypted SMS messages. No servers or internet connection required. Good. Silence provides end-to-end encryption for your messages using painstakingly engineered Signal encryption protocol. All messages are encrypted locally, so if your phone is lost or stolen, your messages are protected. And of course, Silence is free and open source software, enabling anyone to verify its security by auditing.
But nobody actually does, let's be honest. Yikes.
Code. They've got some beauty. They're on Mastodon, and I do tend to sort of lean into that if an application it has a Mastodon instance, that it tends to be quite sincere towards its free and open source commitments and sincere towards its philosophy. That's always a good sign. Not necessarily the be all and end all, but certainly something I always quite like to see. You can support it with Bitcoin, and it has a warranty canary right down there at the bottom. So it seems to be very transparent, it's very straightforward, and it's something I've been using now for quite some time actually. I'm surprised I haven't made a video about this sooner. I've got it on my phone, and for those of you that are wondering, yes, it does have a dark mode. In fact, for quite some time I was just using it as my standard SMS client, because the stock one that came with my phone just didn't have it just didn't have a dark mode, and that was
Oh my gosh, people are so obsessed with their dark mode. Jesus.
almost one reason. I know it's a bit silly, and of course it being open source and in the F-Droid store, of course, is important to me as well. Now, you do need to have like two people with the signal, the silence client for it to actually work, for it to actually be encrypted. But if you have the silence client and someone else doesn't, then you still use it as a standard SMS client, and it's still open source software in action. But yeah, to get its full encryptions, to get the encrypted end-to-end encryption, you do need both people to have silence. It is just a matter of downloading and installing, and there is, like they say, nothing to sign up for, and no, T's and C's and all this kind of stuff. And it does use SMS, so you're not necessarily beholden to the internet. It's all well and good to have all these internet-reliant clients, but it's got something SMS. Like everyone I know is on SMS,
It flew through?
which is
What the
really
heck?
useful. So you're still using and supporting privacy.
Wait, did I just bomb my own base here? I did. I had all my chests and shulkers here. Ugh, I'm so brain.
Respecting software,
Whatever.
even if you're not always using the end-to-end encryption. And again, when it comes to things like privacy requirements, there is no one-size-fits-all. And I think that's a deeper philosophical discussion as to whether or not you always need everything to be encrypted all the time, every day. Now, one argument is yes, because it normalizes the behavior of encryption. What you don't want is whenever you're whenever you're in whenever you require privacy, to start then using end-to-end encryption, because then it feeds into an air of suspicion. Whereas if it's just the casual thing, the day-to-day usage of end-to-end encryption, it just makes privacy a standard value in online society and the day-to-day running of things, which I think is probably a really valid point. But of course, it's always very difficult to get end users and non-techie people to actually to just.
Oh my gosh, this is useless. I have no idea what to do about this water thing. Yeah. Sad.
To sort of think it through, I guess. I don't want to necessarily sound sort of like too elitist, but there are some or sound a little bit too academic. But there are a lot of like historical examples of why things like encryption and having privacy-respecting software and being careful about this kind of stuff is important, because there have been and still are massively oppressive regimes across the world that will sort of invade people's privacy in for someone like me who is broadly pretty privileged, and I don't really have anything to hide. But if I was, for example, a LGBT activist in Egypt, then I definitely would. And those people, they deserve to organise, and I think they deserve to fight for their rights. I think they deserve to have their rights, quite frankly. But this is the kind of thing. It's like why I kind of feel that people in a position of safety, such as myself, should then sort of continue to support software that can then help people who aren't in a position of safety. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of think stuff like this is at least important to support and at least important to develop, because it does allow people, people with privilege to help people who don't have it. And I think that, it's almost the duty of the strong to protect the vulnerable. And this is an example of how it happens. Anyway, that sort of political tangent aside, this is a really good example of how you can actually bring end-to-end encryption and privacy-respecting software into the lives and use cases of people who aren't necessarily as technically savvy as us, and also it's a pretty good client in its own right. So if you guys are in fact in the market for a good SMS client, then I would like to suggest Silence. I've been using it now for a year since I've had my smartphone, but even when I had my smartphone after my time on the old Nokia 3310, I think I used it. And again, no problems. It's better than the standard stock SMS client, and on Android at least. And I had a good old time with it. And of course, it's in the F-Droid store, and I think again it does show a good degree of sincerity towards free and open source values when a piece of software is brought into the F-Droid store. So yeah, go and go and check it out if you so wish. It's available silence.im. I will of course link to it in the description below. But yeah, I think that's about it from me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And yeah, until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Toodaloo.
Oh, no, he said his name. Chris Ware. I don't know. He was so fast. I couldn't actually pronounce it. Whatever. It's Chris. Yeah, so we watched that video. Then we are coming to the last one. Oh boy, where's the line? With free open. So, what does FOSS source? Free and open source software. Where's the line with FOSS? Free and open source software thoughts. Yeah, it's the last link in the description. And fuck. Yeah. Let's go.
We all have our own.
Why is it so silent?
But the fact of the matter is,
Boy, what?
we all,
Can you
every single person
be
who's-
louder,
every
please?
single person who's a computer has benefited from the open source and free software movement. Undoubtedly, right? You get Linux on your phones, on your watches, on your computers, on your TVs. It's everywhere. And if we didn't have the free software movement, the operating systems that are implemented on all of these devices, your sat-navs, your TVs, all this stuff, they could very well end up being A, significantly more expensive, because proprietary licenses would then have to be handed out, more bureaucratic, less secure, and it would hinder development of the tools on top of that. You know, that's not even mentioning the shady stuff that companies could get up to, and that's not saying that companies don't do a heck of a lot of shady stuff these days, even on top of like the open source stuff. Like you take the Linux kernel, yes, all right, so you could put that on Android. Google of course do a bunch of shady stuff on top of that as well, but you know, more can be done. You know, you're at a greater disadvantage without the free software components in it. So it's a matter of, like, not everything has to be always free all the time, 10 times out of 10, at least in my personal opinion. But to support free software whenever possible, to make it the norm and to use it, I think is like really important, because then it allows wider society to sort of progress on a much more efficient footing and on a much more ethical from a software point of view footing, because what we don't want is to go back to the 90s where Microsoft were handing out licenses to schools, getting everyone hooked on Microsoft products, and then clawing their monopoly into the desktop ecosystem so thoroughly that they were just making a lot of money by hindering technological development. And that's fundamentally what it comes down to. And yeah, like, you know, and it's, you know, the thing is that like we talk like we can talk about like Linux going mainstream, for example. Linux going mainstream will always be a mixed blessing, right? You know, because what does Linux going mainstream look like? Well, it looks like Android, it looks like Chrome OS, and those are just two right off the bat. What does BSDs, for example, going mainstream look like? Well, it might look like Apple, and Apple to me is the worst of the bunch, because I cannot stand closed systems. That's just, to me, no fun whatsoever. It's like Fisher-Price computers is what Apple is to me. Sure, you know, if you're an elderly person and you just want to keep in touch with the grandkids with an easy system, then by all means pick up an Apple, I guess. And there's plenty of free software powering it. So, or PlayStation, actually, last name, first name, yeah, BSD going mainstream is like PlayStation, which is, you know, like PlayStation benefits from the free software movement in that capacity as well. So, you know, it's good. Like, free software has done a lot for the world. It's done good. And of course, Linux, Paul does have a good point. Google is now getting their monopoly into schools using the exact same strategy that Microsoft did. So, but at least it's a Linux-like system. At least it's a compatible kernel. At least they're contributing back to free software in some capacity, even if we have a new, more insidious enemy in the midst. I don't really want to say Google's an enemy per se, but it's certainly something that...
I did it twice in one stream.
What?
why do I even continue doing this? I should probably just uninstall the game and set up some baritone playing for me. Jesus.
Is a monopoly that should be challenged. All monopoly should be challenged, and fundamentally speaking, it's a problem of just having businesses run such important infrastructure in general. Because the thing is, you can support your small business outside of Google, and that's all well and good. But a big company could easily buy out the small outsider, and the small outsider then becomes absorbed into everything that you were initially fighting against. Or it could very well be the fact that the small outsider gains the critical mass and the momentum to overtake the conventional big tech and then becomes the enemy that it was originally selling itself against. So the fact of the matter is the core of the free software movement will probably for the most part always be an outside one, but also influential and important. So I don't know, take that for what it's worth. That's just my 2 cents anyway. FOSS allows non-FOSS companies to be lazy. Kind of. I mean, it's much more efficient because the fact of the matter is, companies are lazy. They'll do the least amount of work for the most amount of money, right? So what they'll be doing is, if there were no FOSS kernels, for example, there will be bodged together proprietary kernels that will be closed, so we'll have no idea how insecure they are, and they'll differ from machine to machine, making compatibility an infinitely more difficult task in any capacity. And it will just be building a digital house of cards, because every company will have their own kernel. It will not be as maintained, not be as well maintained as any of the other kernels that are in existence today. And that's the benefit. Like, the fact of the matter is, kernels are difficult to make. They require a great deal of expertise, and to be fair, a lot of different people with lots of differing specialist areas in software development. It's a massive field, of course. So basically what you've got to do is you've got to find out where companies can be lazy and take advantage of it. And I think that's what the free software's done, you know. So all in all, you know, like, I don't suspect the freer of the free software sector of the Linux population and the Linux community will necessarily become the norm. It may do, I could be wrong, but that's not to say that it isn't incredibly important. It doesn't do a hell of a lot of good stuff. Is pivotal in a great number of factors. It's just, you know, it's just you know, a part of the way that the complex world it pans out. Like, we should have ideological purists in the community, because they are an influence that is at least beneficial to have. Maybe you don't agree with them 10 times out of 10, but they're always worth listening to, because they're the ultimate destination of what you're pulling towards in a lot of ways. Not necessarily. I mean, there will always be pulling factors in different directions, but the fact of the matter is, if all of the world ended up using Triskel or Gnussens or Parabola as you know, as an extreme case scenario, it's not a bad, you know, extreme case scenario, and you know, the world could adapt to that in a much better way. So yes, it's when did I start? Well, when I started Linux, it was 1997, and there wasn't a Linux community because my internet was much more restricted. But I think I started sort of looking into the Linux community, I think 2006-ish. Drew, I am a liar. I'm so sorry. All right, no one talk about Linux. I'll ban anyone who talks about Linux from now on. Okay, good. Off topic. Anyway, so, they've got a Manjaro. No. Manjaro is not for free software. If you want to have anything close to a free software system, you've got to stay away from Manjaro. Windows is not great. No one in the world thinks that Windows is great. Not even Windows users think Windows is great. They put up with Windows.
I know Windows users who think Windows is great.
They put up with Windows because it's what the crowd uses. It's simple as that. It's like no one enjoys Facebook, but like everyone's on it because it's where the herd is.
Who's on Facebook? From when is this video? 4 months ago. Who was on Facebook 4 months ago? How old is this guy? What the heck?
That's where the crowd is. So I know there are Windows fans, right? And they are worse than any other like fans ever of anything.
Worse than Mac fans? Like
It's
Apple fans?
Fucking maddening. It really is. Like it really, really is. It's mad. It's bonkers. It really is. Yeah. No, I've had a couple of, not very many. There's very few of them. I think I can probably count on one hand all of them. I'm not on Facebook either. Last name first name. And don't follow me on Twitter. Only idiots follow me on Twitter. I use Twitter for work. Unfortunately, that is one area where I've had defense. And also, by the way, like, no, hang on a minute.
Microsoft Paint is great.
The old school MS Paint. They should open source that. I think Windows fanboys. I don't know. Like they're bizarre. I can't even remember it to be honest. The last time I came across one was a while back. But like, I mean, take for example Manjaro and Mint. They are specifically Mint have said that they like free software, but they're not in the. They're not going to ever like let it hinder them in terms of functionality. So if they can only do something with non-free software, they'll go ahead and do it with non-free software. But all the tools that Mint develop, they open source, which is fair. I think Manjaro is the distribution that that takes the we don't care. I don't know. Is it fair to say they don't care about non-free? Like they don't. It's much less of a factor to them. So you know, for example, you can install. Is it free Office on install with Manjaro now? That's not an open source Office, but if it's better than LibreOffice, I don't know. Like I personally don't have a problem with LibreOffice, but I'll answer your question as a second, Drew. But like, with free Office, I mean, if it's a really good Office suite, I don't know. Then you know. Maybe one distribution should be the one that does it. Maybe there's an argument to say, well, okay, we'll put in the best for the you know, like the best. I mean, you know, they'll put in the best product, the products that they see as best, and they'll disregard what the license is as long as they can redistribute it. But I don't know. I mean, it's interesting in Manjaro. In my opinion, I know that the opinion is divided on Manjaro with different experiences. But I think it's pretty good, but some people obviously disagree. Drew says the problem with being fully free open is where do you draw the line? Drivers, firmware, microcode. I mean that's like a question for everyone, isn't it? Because I mean, if you wanted to be 100% fully free, you'd need to buy the hardware specifically for it, and I think you start going into. I mean, one of the things that brought me on board with the free software movement, and I think this is much more important than it's ever given credit for, is that it allows people who don't have that much money to get on board with computers and this digital community, which makes it more.
It's not a lot of money. It's even if you pay for it, it's less annoying. For example, I don't know, if you pay for a piece of software and you have the license or whatever, then you have to enter this license key on all of your devices, and then you reset your device, and then you have to uninstall it on this device, and then, I mean, sometimes paid products give you something better than free products, like they give you some service on top of it, but I feel like mostly in the software world, it also can add some headache if you have to pay for it. Even if you paid for it, it's less convenient than pure free stuff during the installation process and so on. And yeah, I think it can be a big inconvenience, even if you have the money.
Inclusive in a very important and meaningful way. So I don't. This is why I'm against absolutism in that free software way. I am of the mind of be as free software as possible, and it's up to you to work out where the sacrifices are. Because if you were to go super free software, you are going to be making sacrifices. but it's up to you as to how. I don't want to say it's like how dedicated you are to free software, because that's not really a fair way of looking at it. Different people have different needs, and it's an incredibly complex field. And some different people have different time to learn different things and commitments, and some people want to keep up with the grandkids and they use Skype and all that kind of stuff. So it's an incredibly complex.
Skype's such a
You
meme.
can never have one size fits all in terms of how it works. But my personal guiding rule is, like, even if it means making some sacrifices, I think they're worth it, because free software doesn't get better without community involvement. So that's just my take on it anyway. But there is no line to be drawn. It's all shades of grey. So.
Okay, that was a fast end. I guess this is it for this stream. We watched like almost the whole channel of Chris Ware on what was the instance? ShareTube. So check out share.tube. What was this channel link? I don't know. / it's in the description.